What is going on, guys? Welcome back to another episode of Talking Halos. I'm your host today, Jared Timms, and I'm joined alongside my co-host, my partner in crime, Nate Green. Nate, welcome back.
Yes, it's been a while. It's good to be back. It's fun. So, how
I
you
have no,
doing?
I'm doing good. I have no notes going into this, so I'm gonna scroll through, make sure we get these transactions up and
Of
all that
course.
fun stuff. Because if you're just tuning in, you've missed a lot. I like that quote, so that's what we're gonna roll with here. World Series not quite over yet, as you guys can probably see if you're a usual to the YouTube side of things. On a little bit of a new stream, new background, I guess is what you can say. Testing it out, seeing how it will work before we get rocking and rolling a little bit more with the off season as a whole. And with all that being said, guys, just thank you so much for all the support here at Talking Halos. Go ahead, follow us on all our social medias. All you have to do is look up Talking Halos. You can follow myself on Twitter or X, whatever you call it, at Jared_Timms. Nate at Nate Green 34. Nate, let's get it rolling here. Off season fun. I don't want to talk about the Angels quite yet. I know we have a lot to talk about. I don't want
We
to talk
do.
about it quite yet. We do have a lot. I was thinking about this as I was doing stuff on my thinking spot, and for you guys know where that is. Have we learned anything this postseason? Like last year, I felt like we didn't learn, but like we remembered that the bullpen reigned supreme. Looking at what the Astros did, I don't think that has that really happened yet this year. Like Phillies
I
winning,
think starting pitching has taken a big step forward this year. If you look
yeah,
at it, the teams that have had their starter go 6+ are very very good. The teams that have not had their starters go 6+ have not won too many games. You look at it, the Dodgers didn't really get out of the third inning with anyone, and they did not win a single game. You look at what the Rangers have done so far, even the Astros. Like the Astros, for the most part, their guys have gone pretty deep. The Rangers guys have gone deep, and the Phillies and Diamondbacks, like their guys have gone deep. The one game that the Diamondbacks really haven't pitched too well before the Phillies series, like they kind of got bailed out with the offense, but for the most part, their guys have been able to go deep into games and give them good starts, which has been able to help the bullpens because they're able to use the same guys in situations and things like that. But the other thing I think you kind of see is that just because you hit a lot of home runs in the regular season, it doesn't mean you're going to hit a lot of home runs in the postseason. The Phillies might be the exception to the rule on the team that hits a lot of home runs that could end up in the World Series. But you look at it, the Astros, haven't been crazy with home runs. The Rangers definitely have been crazy with home runs. They've hit the most when you look at it from an American League standpoint, just because they've played more games, but not because they're just absolutely hitting home runs every single game. But yeah, I think those are the two things you kind of learned so far.
yeah. I was going to say the same thing. I was going to say pitching reigns supreme like always in the postseason. And yet again, analytics just don't work in the postseason. You know, if the Dodgers played the Diamondbacks, right? If the Dodgers would have won, if you look at let me take a step back here. If the Dodgers and the Astros would have won, like they were supposed to, if they would have won, you look at the managers in that, and besides the Dodgers, who we know run the analytic department, it's all pretty old school managers. You have a guy like Torey Lovello right now, who's pretty a little bit old school there. Brian Snedeker is old school. Rob Thompson, who's old school. Dave Roberts, who's old school. I mean, a lot of these teams were kind of that old school thinking in a sense. I mean, when it comes to the postseason,
I won't give you the Dave Roberts as old school because
no,
he
I still
he
plays the analytic.
personally he personally might be old school, but
Yeah,
they are not.
yeah.
But Dusty Baker, Bruce Bochy, those are the two names that really stick out. Those are
The
some of the
two
old school ways, and those are
oldest
the teams
managers
that
in
are fighting for
baseball.
a chance to go to the World Series.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and the two oldest managers in baseball there too. So
Yeah.
kind of interesting to see that. Definitely old school baseball there. Just something I wanted to point out there. I mean, when it comes down to it, pitching, and it just seems like analytics don't work. We saw Tampa plays the analytics game. They couldn't make it out of the wild card round, which not
Couldn't
surprising.
win a single game.
Yeah, couldn't win a game. Not that analytics play anything to do with postseason, but it seems like that side of stuff doesn't work all that well. Dodgers didn't win a game, and that's a different side. That's a different side. I think
They
the
didn't have enough starting pitching.
Yes, but I also think that something needs to be done about that bye. I think the bye doesn't help baseball out that much.
Can I say something that's really unpopular? But if Julio Urias is on the postseason roster, Dodgers probably are winning that series.
Yeah, that's
because that changes the whole thing. Like the Dodgers have shown whether Kershaw is the best pitcher in baseball or not, he has not really started game one. They've gone to a plethora of other guys to start game one, whoever they've had, which moves Kershaw into a game two start. And if Arias pitches like he had been pitching, where he goes 6 or 7, he hadn't pitched that well this year, but for some reason, when he gets into the postseason, he's kind of a different animal. So if he was able to pitch, I think that series is completely different. Yeah, you can go about it with the bye, but we're looking at Houston. We're recording this on Sunday night. Houston's 1 win away from going to the World Series, and they did have the bye. So, you know, you can cry about it all you want, but like some teams just know how to play. And I think the other thing too, you look about Houston 1 through 9, they all, or it's really 1 through 8, but 1 through 9, they're going to compete with at bats, right? Like they're not going up there trying to hit home runs. Yeah, Jordan hits a bunch of home runs, but like that's not what their approach is. The approach isn't, oh, let's go out and hit 5, 6 home runs and we're going to win the game 7-6. Like their whole thing is like just keep putting good ABs together and let that line keep going. And they're going to make a mistake eventually, and when they do, we're going to make them pay for it. And if you look at what Atlanta had, you look at what the Dodgers had, they were lacking starting pitching. Like, just be honest with everyone. They were lacking starting pitching.
Atlanta Max was? Fried. Okay, I'll say the Dodgers. Atlanta was, though?
Max Fried hadn't pitched in 2 weeks because of a fingernail issue.
It's one of the best.
Strider's there, yeah. Charlie Morton wasn't there. Like they're missing some of their key pieces to where they're at. Kyle Wright had been one of their really good guys in the postseason for them lately, and he wasn't available. He's out probably for all of next year as well. So, yeah, I think those teams, like, they were expecting to have guys that weren't available when it came time for the postseason, and it is what it is. So you look at what Houston does, and Houston pitches really good, and they have really good ABs, and that's why they're still winning.
Yeah, not complaining about that. Houston's a different beast, to be honest. Like that's year in and year out for friggin' Houston, man. They're a dynasty. They're just a good organization. That's a weird thing to say, but they just know how to win. And then I don't know. Like I said, it's tough seeing 3 of the 4 teams that got a bye, or 3 of the 4 best teams lose right off the bat. So that.
But did you really think Baltimore had enough pitching to win a postseason matchup?
No, but they also
you see the common denominator though. Like Baltimore didn't have a dude.
It isn't the point. Isn't the point though to help the team? Not help, but like make those teams that won more games. Like it's supposed to be an advantage. It doesn't seem like an advantage right now. Right? In football, it's an advantage.
It depends on your team. It depends on your team, right? Like if you're an old veteran team like the Astros are, like the Dodgers are, it should be helping them. But if you're the younger team like Baltimore, I think you just want to continue playing. The other thing that hasn't really been mentioned about this, Houston had to play till 162. None of those other teams had to play till 162, but that's on. We could talk about that later.
Yeah, as we were recording this, I mean, Houston's absolutely red hot. The Phillies are looking pretty good as well.
Texas has been red hot too.
Texas Texas came in.
Arizona got red hot. Like,
yeah, it comes down to momentum, and I just like I said, I feel like the bye doesn't help momentum. So for me, let's get on to some Angels talk, because we do have Angels news. Let's talk about some players that the Angels let go. Not really. That elected free agency. Let's go with that. So you got Chad Wallock, Carson Fulmer, Brett Phillips, Jaime Barria, Jared Walsh, Gerardo Reyes, and as I keep going down here a little bit more, you got Gerardo Reyes, who I said, Chris O'Kee, Cesar Valdez, and did I miss anybody there? Kevin Padlo as well. So any names there that surprise you? Any names that you think that might be back on a minor league deal?
Chet Wallach's the one guy that stands out, could be back on a minor league deal.
There's some feelings there with that name, but okay, go on.
Jaime Barria, like I was saying it was time to move on from him. That was kind of interesting. I didn't think the Angels would actually move on from him. I was asking for it, but I didn't think it was actually going to happen. So that one was a little interesting to me. Walsh wasn't really interesting. Like he had already been outrighted once. Shanuel had come up and played good enough to kind of solidify his spot going forward, and Walsh was going to really have to overperform to win that job back, and it didn't look like it was going to be his. So that one didn't really surprise me too much. Brett Phillips, no, makes too much money. So yeah, I think really it's the Jaime Barria one, and Chad Wallock is the guy that I would expect to be back on a minor league deal.
Yeah, I had a conversation with somebody about Chad Wallock the other day, and it was like, Chad, he's gonna get contracts no matter what because he does he does the job description. He is a good catcher. He hits what 180, like 200 at best, but he does the job description. He's a good catcher at the end of the day. The thing that keeps him from being a really freaking good catcher, a starter, somebody who's going to play 100 games, is that offensive piece. But I'd love to see Chad Wallock back. I think he handles the rotation well. I think he handles all the pitchers well. And he's a SoCal guy too, which helps from Fullerton, Cal State Fullerton kid. So I like him. Plus, I mean, I know him, so that helps even more on that side of stuff. So, I mean, yeah, actually, we both know him. You know him a little bit too, right? SoCal kid. I think everybody kind of knows everybody. So, yeah, I'd love to see Wallock back. I think Walsh, if healthy, helps the team out. But I mean, you just don't know if he's healthy or not. That's the scary thing about it. He didn't play well down in AAA when he got sent back down. He just didn't look right, unfortunately. And then for me, Jaime Barria,
he got called back up.
Yeah, it didn't look great when he got called back up either. And then Jaime Barria, there's 100 different Jaime Barrias. Every team has a Jaime Barria. I'd love to see. This is going to be kind of one of those weird takes. I'd love to see Griffin Canning in that role this year as like that sixth starter. If the Angels want to make a push and try to really push for the postseason this year, this in 2024, I think if Griffin, that's the guy for me. We always said if David Fletcher is starting, that the Angels are in a postseason team. I think if Griffin Canning and or Tyler Anderson are starting this season, you can handle Anderson being a 5 guy, but for me, if Griffin Canning is starting, you did not get deep enough this offseason to be a postseason team. And we just talked about this. Good postseason teams that go deep into the postseason, that even make the postseason, have a lot of pitching. And that's something that the Angels just haven't had. And I think, again, if the Angels expect to be a good team next year, which I think they do, then Griffin Canning cannot be an every fifth day starter. I know he might deserve it, but I'd like to see more depth than that. I'd like to see some better pitchers than the Angels having 3 number 5 guys and a number 3 and a number 3.5 type of thing. They need to get better on the pitching side of things.
So I'll just play devil's advocate because I know a lot of people are big Griffin Canning guys. So Tyler Anderson, if Tyler Anderson gets moved, right? Let's say miracles happen, somebody takes Tyler Anderson. You have Silseth, you have Detmers. Let's say you go get a Nola or a Snell or someone who's like a guy. Are you okay with Griffin Canning being the number 5? Or do you think personally that they need to get better?
No, if Tyler Anderson's gone, like Griffin Canning's a solid number 5 guy, right? I think that. I just don't want. I'd hate for the Angels to run out there like they always do. How many 4 and 5s, right? Like I know that
4 and 5s,
right? Like the Angels, it feels like the Angels always roll out those 4 and 5s with Shohei Ohtani. It's like, well, they're going to be good enough. It's like, no, I want to be better than good enough. So yeah, I'd like to see the Angels actually get going with a true rotation. That 5-man rotation. Get guys, rolling on every 4 or 5 days, whatever the rest is that they get going. And if Griffin Canning wins that job in spring, that's fine. To me, that's fine. But you say Tyler Anderson, Griffin Canning, whoever else you go and sign, probably some minor league deals, you're fighting for this 5th spot right now because there are 4 spots ahead of us. Hopefully the Angels go get another starter that's better than this, an Aaron Nola, Blake Snell, somebody like that. That makes this rotation better. That makes that 5th start a bit of a fight. Like, hey, Tyler Anderson, like this isn't your job. Like, yeah, you're getting paid $13 million, or Griffin Canning. yeah, you pitched well last year, but this isn't your spot. That you got to go win it this spring. So whoever wins it in the spring, that's fine. If it's Canning, that's cool. But I'd love to see it be a fight in spring, and I'd love to have be able to talk about this in spring, where it's like I don't know who the five starters are going to be. Like, yeah, they went and got Nola or Snell, or they went and got Flaherty, or they went and got a dude. They went and got that starter. Plus they have Sandoval and Detmers and Silseth. But like, who's going to be that fifth starter? I mean, who's going to be that sixth starter? Like what is that? Because I think they're going 5-man rotation. You almost have to. You have to go back to what pitchers are used to. So and it's a good selling feature for a pitcher to come here. It's like, yeah, we don't have Shohei Ohtani. We don't have that guy that's can pitch whenever he wants. Like, we're gonna go on this rest. We're gonna go on these days. I think that's kind of what's held the Angels back from getting a dude as well, is that there's the uncertainty in the rotation. So yeah, I'd love if Griffin Canning wins it in spring. That's cool, but like, I don't want the Angels to roll out there with 4 number fives this year again. Like they have in the past. Like, I want to feel confident in this and be deep too. Where like, if Griffin Canning, or heck, if Reed Detmers isn't pitching well, it's like, well, like, we have Griffin Canning that can come and start some games. Or Tyler Anderson's been really good. Like, let's see what he can do as well. So the fact that we're talking about this is a little bit rough, but yeah, I hope the Angels have a decent offseason. So besides that, you got anything else on these before we talk a little bit of managerial stuff?
No, let's move on to the managerial stuff. This is going to be fun.
Absolutely. So the Angels did not renew Phil Nevin's contract. My thought originally, yeah, are you surprised? Probably
shocked.
Not. You're probably not surprised. I mean, a lot of people aren't surprised. I thought he did what is asked of him. Obviously, this was not his team, right? This was the front office team. Alex Tammon, Perry Mason, whoever you want to blame, that it was their team. Maybe even a little bit more Ray Montgomery as well, the bench coach, who probably was in the middle of a lot of things there too. But for me, Phil Nevin did what he was supposed to do. He stood up for his guys. That's a big thing for me, is you gain respect that way. You stood up for your guys. It wasn't like felt like Madden didn't stand up for a lot of guys. Brad Osmus wasn't very good at it. Even Sosha from time to time, it just didn't feel like stood up. Like Phil Nevin it felt like for me really has stood up for his guys. So that's a big plus for me. Good clubhouse guy, good communicator for me, in my opinion. Like I thought he did what he was there to do with the resources he had. So to put blame on Nevin for really anything is tough, especially when you have the game played out before the game has even been played. So it is what it is. Go out there, do what you can, be an impact where you can. So if it's in the clubhouse, it's in the clubhouse. If it's on the field, go back up your guys, go do your thing. So for me, Phil Nevin did, he didn't do great, but he wasn't a bad manager by any means. And if the Angels even brought him back again, like, it's not a horrible thing for me either. I'd like to see somebody with a little more experience than Nevin, but like I said, he stood up for his guys. That's a big thing for me.
Well, he should have stood up for himself, is what he really should have done, because if he would have started to make some decisions instead of letting the front office make some decisions, who knows, maybe we're talking about this thing differently. But how many times can the Art Howell quote come up where it's like, I'm going to make decisions based on what I can do this offseason to justify a contract, right? Like, so that's great that he was able to stand up for guys, but like, some of the times where it's like you're standing up for guys, we're 20 games out of first place. Like, it's tiresome now. We're over it. I don't know. It felt like they put little kid gloves on him and said, here, go be a manager. This is your dream job, to be in Southern California. And we're not going to let you make any decisions. We're not going to let anyone talk to anyone. So have fun. And I don't know. One of the things that really frustrated me with the team is that Phil Nevin was brought in here as a defensive specialist guy, like a defensive minded guy, and we were one of the worst defenses in baseball last year. So that's a thing that's like, if you're bad with your part of whatever you were good at, it's just not good. Like, if we bring in a Mike Sosha and our catchers are really bad. It's like, Mike, what are we doing? You know, like you're a catcher, you're supposed to be able to teach this, right? So like that's the thing that really was frustrating for me with Phil Nevin is like you are a defensive guy, and we could not be worse defensively last year.
That's fair. That's fair. I mean, you look at what Sosha did good, and the Angels always had really good catchers, right? Like
Yep.
there was never a time where it felt like there. I mean, us as kids, like I didn't like Jeff Mathis, but you look at it now, it's like, oh, the Angels had really good catchers. Like Bobby Wilson, not a great hitter, but like knew how to handle the staff, right? Every single time. Chris Iannetta, good catcher, knew how to handle the staff. Was a good quality. Was a good leader in the clubhouse. You know, all those guys. Hank Conger. So yeah, I give you that. I'll give you that one. Would love to see the Angels be better defensively, but I don't know. I don't know if that's in the plans or not. So same thing goes with pitching. I like to see him be good with pitching. So
They go hand in hand.
with that being said, who do you want to see?
Oh boy. I'm waiting to see what Craig Counsell decides on. As cliche as this sounds, Craig Counsell would work really well with what the Angels are trying to do. I'm willing to wait because the one thing that's been very odd about this cycle of coaches, nobody is really interviewing the same guys. Like the Giants kind of have their people, the Guardians kind of have their people, the Mets kind of have their people, and the Angels kind of have their people. It sounds like the Mets are going to go hard at Craig Counsell, which, you know, why wouldn't they? They brought over some Brewers front office people, and it just makes a lot of sense. Craig Counsell wants to be paid. The Mets have no problem paying anyone. So I think that feels like a match made in heaven. And then when you go on, if Craig Counsell's not the guy, would I be upset with Buck Showalter? No. Is he number one on my list? No. But would I be upset with him? Absolutely not. I think you got to go one of two routes with this. You've got to go someone who is a actual manager and has done it before, or you have to give someone the keys that is an Angels person, like Tim Salmon, Darren Erstad, those type of people that have been with the org and have won games with the org. Like I'm fine giving the keys over to them and just being like, hey, are you the guy? But I would prefer the old school, like, go get me a Buck Showalter, go get me Craig Counsell, go get me somebody who has managed before and knows what he's doing. But will Perry be okay with giving up that kind of control? I don't know. Maybe Taman was a little bit more in control than we think. I know you and I, especially me, were very, very critical of the way the bullpen was used. And we know that's a big Alex Taman thing of, you know, they can only be used on this day if they throw in this many pitches. It's like they're human beings. They're not robots. Like sometimes some guys don't fit the mold. Some guys can throw every day. Some guys can throw once every couple days. It just depends. So I don't know. I'm really, really curious to see what Perry does because I think this is Perry's really last shot at it. If Perry doesn't get it right here, it's got to be over. But, and I know that's something you don't want to happen, but like, let's be honest. He's had his opportunities. This is his last shot.
Yeah, well, I thought that this year might be his last shot. But that being said, yeah, I mean, I'm not a huge fan of switching up GMs. I don't know. I just don't think they. I don't know. We don't have to get into that. Managerial wise, yes, I fully agree with you. I think. I mean, we don't know three candidates right now, but but Buck Showalter has been out there, Benji Gill, and I think we see some type of return from a former player be in the news. I may not be in the news, but in an Erstad type guy, a Tim Salmon type of guy. I mean, I don't know where else to go from that. Percival.
Benji Gill technically was on that team, but whatever.
Well, actually, yeah, technically, but he's in the coaching staff now, so
Yeah.
I can kind of leave him there as somebody that knows the system, knows Perry, knows what he wants. Uh, Worst case scenario for me, and I
The fact that you're even going to mention this just pisses me off.
I know. Worst case scenario for me would be Ray Montgomery. I'm just not. I'm not in on it. I think
That's not even a worst case scenario. That's this team goes into the sun and never plays baseball again case scenario.
Yeah, I have nothing wrong with Ray Montgomery. He's a fantastic front office executive. But when it comes to being in the dugout, I would let baseball people do baseball things in the dugout, right? Like you leave executives, you leave those front office people on one spot, you let your baseball people do other things. So in a sense, if the fact that Ray Montgomery, first off, is in the dugout, is very Artie Moreno-esque. Not saying that that's Artie Moreno's choice. No, listen to what I'm saying. That was not Artie Moreno's choice, but that's Artie Moreno-esque, right? Like, let me step in. Let me make sure that things are going right. The micromanagement type of thing. So if Ray Montgomery becomes the manager, that's very Artie Moreno-like. That's not Artie Moreno's choice. That's Artie Moreno-like because Artie Moreno likes to step in and do baseball things, even though he doesn't like baseball. Or doesn't not like baseball, but doesn't know baseball like the baseball people do. I know I'm going around kind of weird thing there, but if Perry Manasian puts Ray Montgomery in charge, he's not letting the baseball people on the field do baseball things. So,
which is what Joe Madden said 2 years ago.
I mean, hey, if the boot fits, right? With that being said, I don't know which way they go. I'm tired. I'm done trying to guess who's the next manager type of thing because I couldn't tell you. I really can't. They're going to interview a lot of people. Let's say that they're going to interview a lot of people and they're going to find what they think is the right choice. So if that's Joe Espada, then it's Joe Espada this time. If it's Council, it's Council. If he leaves Milwaukee, if it's Benji Gill, it's Benji Gill. If it's Jack Howe, it's Jack Howe. So we'll kind of see where that goes. Last order of business here, and Nate, I know you want to talk about this one because it's something that you've brought to the plate a million times and have wanted this forever. There were some rumors of there possibly being a baseball
president of baseball operation.
Ops. That's what I'm trying to say. President of baseball ops. Are we in on this? And who would you
Absolutely.
like?
Absolutely. I've been asking for this for I don't know how long. I think this takes Artie Moreno out of a lot of say. I think this puts the president of baseball ops with more say than the GM. I think it allows Perry to do things well that he does well and not probably not make free agent acquisitions because he was not great with the free agent acquisitions lately. But when it comes to drafting and getting us to the big leagues, that's something he's been able to do. So maybe as GM, he can really focus in on that, and we can get a president of baseball ops guy who can bring in some pieces to really help the young core that Perry's trying to build. With all that being said, I'm very much in on this. Who would I like to see? I don't know. Because like always, when this gets thrown about, like Theo Epstein's going to get thrown in there always. The kid John Daniels is going to get thrown in there for me all the time because I think he built this Rangers team. Like if we're going to be really honest with everyone, like John Daniels built this Rangers team. Chris Young threw the finishing touches on it. He went and got Jacob deGrom. But for the most part, this is all John Daniels' team. So would I like to see one of those two guys? Absolutely. Would I like to see Shane Bloom? No. I don't believe he has done anything anywhere to deserve more credit, like more ownership in something than Perry. I think what he's done is pretty equal to what Perry's done. They've been able to get rid of some contracts and bring in some contracts and not win baseball games. When you're looking at other people that could get thrown in here, can Kim with the Marlins, she's going to get thrown in there. I don't think she really wants a job in this cycle. I think she'd rather take a year off and go from there. Would she be a fit? Sure. Would she be my number one? No. Just kind of like Buck Showalter, where it wouldn't be my number one, but would I be okay with it? Sure. Just because it's got to be better than the way we've been doing things. So just give me somebody who is a baseball guy that knows baseball, or a baseball person. Let's be fair with that. Give me a baseball person who knows baseball. Kim seems to be like she did a pretty good job with Miami and bringing in some key free agents. Sounds like she might have been right on a couple people that she was outvoted on, but bring in baseball people to do baseball things. I think that's like the common thing with everything from top to bottom. If we are going to bring in a baseball ops person, bring in a baseball person. If we're going to bring in a new manager, bring in a baseball person. Do not give us some analytical robot that is going to do everything Perry says, because Phil Nevin basically was that, and it didn't work out really well. So that's where I'm at on the thing, but it needs to be a baseball person.
I started this with the managerial one. I'll say it again here. Worst case scenario for me. This is a fantastic.
Again, if this happens, the team should go into the sun and never be allowed to play baseball again.
Can I at least say my worst case scenario, or are you not going to allow it?
You can say it, but like.
Okay. Worst case scenario, because I did it with manager. I did it with the managerial thing. That was Ray Montgomery. Worst case scenario here is John Carpino. Now,
with Ray Montgomery.
With Ray
don't
Montgomery.
Don't forget it has to be together.
I said that. I said that's a real this is a real possibility of it happening, by the way. John is a fantastic person, and I swear, if John watches this, he's a good person. He's a great baseball mind. He's a great business person, great businessman. But I don't want to see Artie Moreno's footprints around the Angels at all, right? Like
if we're hiring a president of baseball ops,
especially if you're hiring president of baseball ops, right? I'd prefer to not see Artie Moreno around it. Now, John Carpino could do fantastic things, right? And it could happen. Like I said, I just want to see a baseball person that has been there and done it before. Maybe been a GM, maybe has won World Series and things like that. Be in that spot, right? John Carpino, a great mind behind the Angels making a lot of money with Albert Pujols, right? And guys can go look up the Albert Pujols stuff there. John Carpino, a fantastic mind behind that. Fantastic mind. I'd say behind the Mike Trout signing as well. Like he did a great thing. Again, with that being said, I want to see a baseball person there. I don't want to see Artie Moreno walking around being able to make any more bigger decisions than he needs to, right? He owns the team and Artie gets what Artie wants, right? At the end of the day, if Artie wants something, he's probably going to go get it unless his name's Trey Turner, which I don't know how he got vetoed on that one. But if Artie gets Artie wants, I learned that a long time ago, right? And I will always say, if Artie wants, Artie gets, because he's the owner and he's for the most part, if Artie wants, Artie gets.
Last year or so, it hasn't been that way, but pre Perry, it has been that way.
I'll say that, man. That for me, worst case scenario is Ray Montgomery as your manager and John Carpino as president of baseball ops. Anybody else I can work with. I've been unfortunately right in the past couple of things that Angel have done. I said anybody but Nolan Shanwell at $5 million. They went and signed Nolan Shanwell for $5 million. He's proven me wrong right now. He's proven me wrong. He looks good. No, hey, dude, he's proven us wrong. I will fine with saying that. Like he's a major leaguer.
Let's see a full year. Let's see a full year.
That's fine. Right now, he's proven everybody wrong that said that was a bad pick. Right now, like we can talk about it next year if he's hitting 220.
He hit 2 home wall last year.
That's fine. It's fine. I'm just saying he's proven
5 extra base hits the entire season.
That's fine. He's proven everybody wrong, and I'll be the first one to say that. So we said about Tyler Anderson. Anybody but Tyler Anderson, they just want to sign Tyler Anderson. So anybody but Ray Montgomery, anybody but John Carpino, and I think we're going to be pretty happy on that side of stuff. So with all that
Even
being
if they don't get a baseball ops person, I'd rather that than get those two.
That's fine. That's fine. I mean, I'm not going to be throwing. I don't want to throw heat on anybody. John, fantastic person, met in the past. Like I have nothing wrong to say about him. Great businessman, just like Artie Moreno. Great businessman, right? Stay out of the baseball side of stuff, please. Like that's one thing I ask. Same thing with Ray Montgomery. Fantastic human being. Stay out of the dugout side of stuff. Stay in the.
You can be the assistant GM.
It's fine. Yeah, be assistant GM. That's cool. But let the baseball people do baseball things where they're supposed to be doing baseball things. Coaches do coaches stuff. Manager does manager stuff. Executives do executive things. Owner does owner stuff. Don't combine it. Just leave it by itself. So, hey, with all that being said, you got anything else for me here besides Jose Suarez?
Jose Suarez got to be next on the chopping block. I don't care if it's traded or whatever, but Jose Suarez next on the chopping block. Hopefully, we get a Game 7 in Houston. Go Rangers. Go Phillies.
Let us know how you like this. We're going to try this StreamYard here for a little bit. Got a lot of fun guests coming on. A lot of fun guests working on getting them scheduled. Talking some Angels baseball here. Don't forget, just like last year, we had Ben Joyce on. We had Zach Neto on of Mini. A lot of fun interviews there. Hoping to get them back on again. Talk little major leagues with them. It'll be a lot of fun. So, guys, with all that being said, thank you so much for watching and listening to this podcast here at Talkin' Halos. You can go follow us on all our social medias, Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. You can follow myself on Twitter, Jared_Tim's, Nate at NateGreen34. Guys, thank you so much for listening. Have a great rest of your day.